Get your story straight. What an idiot. Get it through your noodle. Don't give a rat's behind. That's baloney.
A new era begins.
And I'm just getting started.
Judy Justice.
Check your local listing to watch Judy Justice. Out now.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
A very important game for the Chargers tonight at SoFi. They play the Denver Broncos in a game that will have major implications on the AFC playoff picture. Denver is 9-5. They can clinch a playoff spot if they beat or tie the Chargers tonight. Denver is currently the number 6 seed in the AFC playoffs. The 8-6 Chargers are in the 7th and final seed. They need a win tonight to avoid dropping out of playoff contention. 5:30 kickoff on Prime. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are at Sacramento. The Clippers are at Dallas. From the Now It Can Be Told department, the Dodgers paid just over $2 million to the Los Angeles Police Department and the LA Fire Department for their services during the World Series Victory Parade on November 1st. The Dodgers paid LAPD $1.7 million. $290,000 went to the fire department. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program, or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, in our third hour, and in this first hour, a year in review conversation with reflections from our stellar roster of contributors as we look back on the most impactful political stories of 2024 and try to imagine what the resistance looks like with Trump 2.0 on the horizon. Cornel West, Nina Turner, Jesse Jackson Jr., Nee Quarterly Corte, Ashley Woodard Henderson, Marcus Hunter, Ruben Navarrete Jr., that is, Brianna Joy Gray, Michael Fontroy, and Connie Rice. These are the voices that you will hear over the next 3 hours. I dare not say there isn't a single talk show. I dare say there's not a single talk show in this country today that has a better lineup than we do. I ain't mad about it. Let's get started. Connie Rice, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Tavis. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. Brianna Joy Gray, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to have you on. Dr. Michael Fontroy, how are you, sir?
I'm outstanding.
Wonderful. Everybody can't say that. You and Charlie Wilson. Outstanding. I ain't mad at you. Let me jump right in. We are gathered here today to look back on the year that was, and yet this year ain't quite over yet. So, Connie, let me come to you first. Breaking news today. The appeals court has disqualified Fani Willis from prosecuting this Georgia Trump case. I thought we were done with this. I thought that the case was moving forward. We all thought that Fani was going to stay right where she was as the DA prosecuting this case. Not so, says the appellate court, Connie Rice.
Yeah, well, this is a political decision. I took a look at the opinion. Standard's supposed to be abuse of discretion. The district court judge, the lower court judge, did not abuse their discretion in finding that Willis could go ahead as the prosecutor. Look, Tavis, if having an affair with somebody on your legal team is going to shut down a case, we're going to have to shut down all the courts. I'm sorry. Just like, if that's the standard, you can just close the courts right now.
Yeah.
So this was a political decision. You could see it in the dissent. It was all Republican judges. But basically they said, the dissent said, look, there was no abuse of discretion here. There's no reason to disqualify her.
Mm. What's your sense of what this means, though, that now that she is being forced to step aside? What's it mean for this case?
Her office may not be able to go forward with the prosecution, but the court did not dismiss the indictment. So the indictment for interfering in Georgia's elections, where he said, "Find me that 200 votes I need.
Mm-hmm.
I just have 11,000 votes. I need 12,000." Yeah, so that case could go forward, but it's so politicized at this point. And as usual, everything that Donald Trump touches dies. Well, he touched the electoral accountability system, and every case has gone away. So we'll see. We'll see if this gets revived in another branch of the prosecutorial apparatus in Fulton County. But right now, it looks like it's going to be even slower, a slower roll than we thought, Tavis.
Yep. As you and I have discussed over the course of this year with this case sort of unfolding, my recollection is that this is the one case that Donald Trump cannot do much about. Jack Smith and others have gone by the wayside. This is the one case, because it's a Georgia case, a state case, that he can't do anything about. So it's worth keeping our eye on, is it not?
Yes, it is. But to look at what the Georgia Republicans are trying to. Remember, they passed that special law for Fani Willis, talking about, they can end any prosecutor's decision to bring a case. That was aimed right at her.
That's right.
So you may not have Trump being able, but the GOP in Georgia is in charge. So we'll see. We'll see. It's still an open question, but you raised the right issue. There are at least three standards of justice right now.
Yeah, at least.
At least three.
I take your point. As I said, we're trying to spend the next 3 hours looking back on the year that was, but there is breaking news today. When we come forward, I'm going straight to Brianna Joy Gray with this one. Amazon has been hit by a Teamsters strike during the holiday rush. That's big news. The strike will take places at sites in New York City, Atlanta, San Francisco, Skokie, Illinois, and here where I sit right now in Southern California. So Amazon hit by a Teamster strike right about now. We'll talk about that. It's been a pretty good last couple of years for labor. We will see what Brianna Joy thinks of this, and Michael Fontroy, a lot to talk to him about as well. You're listening to this Year in Review for the next 3 hours on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
On behalf of the Ayers family, KBLA Talk 1580 announces the public funeral services for our very own Robin Ayers. on Saturday, December 21st, 12 noon, in the living room at the Faithful Central Bible Church, 400 West Florence Avenue in Inglewood. Robin will be sorely missed by all who knew her and the many lives she touched. We will hold on to our fondest memories forever. Family and friends are invited to come celebrate Robin's joyful life Saturday, December 21st at 12 noon in the living room at Faithful Central Bible Church, 400 West Florence Avenue in Inglewood. KBLA Talk 1580 extends sincere condolences to the Ayers family. Robin will always be in our hearts.
It's that holiday time of year. Give the gift of hearing to you or a loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today. Audien Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audienhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com. Hurry, don't miss Audien Hearing's Christmas sale live, now through December 15th.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
It's our year in review, all 3 hours today. In this hour, please be joined by the brilliant Connie Rice, the brilliant Brianna Joy Gray, and the brilliant Dr. Michael Fontour. Just an amazing, stellar roster, I should say, of contributors that I've been blessed to talk to throughout the year. Again, trying to look back on the year that was, but there are a couple things that have been breaking today. In case you've just tuned in, an appeals court has said that Fani Willis in Georgia cannot oversee prosecuting that Georgia Trump case, and so we'll see what that brings, as Connie said, in the weeks and months to come. But for the moment, Fani Willis is off that case as we approach the end of the year. Again, the Georgia case is the one case that Trump can't do a whole lot about. It's a state case, and he has no real authority in that regard, so we'll keep our eye on that in the coming weeks and months, as I said a moment ago. But Amazon is in the news once again because the Teamsters have called for a strike in places like New York City, Atlanta, San Francisco, Skokie, Illinois, and Southern California. The work stoppage is not expected to halt Amazon's vast logistics empire, but it certainly could delay certain packages getting to you. I quote now from the Teamsters president, Sean O'Brien, "If your package is delayed during the holidays, you can blame Amazon's insatiable greed." That's his quote. This is the same Sean O'Brien, Brianna Joy Gray, who you'll recall showed up and gave a speech at the RNC convention. What do you make of the story?
I think this is an historic moment, an incredible moment. Remember that there was a lot of frustration that the Democratic Party didn't seem to there was these kind of negative stories about Sean O'Brien for saying we're willing to talk to both sides of the aisle. Democrats during the election sort of trotted out the idea that Joe Biden had visited a picket line and that was a historic moment. But a lot of union members also remember that he voted to crush the railroad strike, 2 Januaries ago, and that there has not been the same strength behind unions in the United States of America in recent history as there was in years past. And now we see a $2 trillion company in Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos has, of course, donated to the Trump campaign. What was it, about $1 million to the Trump inauguration fund? And at the end of the day, Sean O'Brien is absolutely correct that they gave Amazon a timeline by which they can meet these reasonable demands. Amazon workers have been struggling for years to get basic pay raises and basic rights. And this is the time that you want to strike, at a time when people are very sensitive to their deliveries, obviously because of Christmas. And what we're going to see from the media is an attempt to pit consumers against workers instead of reminding that everybody that they are in fact workers as well, and they should be standing in solidarity with the Teamsters as they stand in solidarity with Amazon workers to ensure all of our collective rights of workers are respected in this country.
Before I pull Michael in this conversation, let me ask you a couple quick follow-ups here, Brianna. Number one, since you mentioned Joe Biden, in retrospect, is history going to regard Joe Biden as good on labor as he has told us he has been?
I mean, I think he will be regarded as better than many, but regrettably, it's that the bar is low. I don't have any interest in taking away from what Joe Biden did accomplish, but I think sometimes you have to take a step back. The entire election was characterized by this insistence that because these kind of macroeconomic factors were positive, that the average consumer, the average American, the average voter who is seeing a rise in these discrete products, namely food prices, housing prices, education prices, transportation prices, that they were somehow delusional, that they shouldn't see that their cost of living has gone up while their pay, again, this is related to the strike actions that we've seen around the country, while pay has remained so stagnant. Remember that we're living in the longest period in American history since the advent of the minimum wage without a minimum wage raise. Mm-hmm. It's been stagnant since 2009. And when you have a gap like that, there's only so much that a president can say, well, I'm good for labor actually, that's going to translate to the lived experiences of the people that you're hoping to vote for you.
Finally, on this issue at least, I wonder what your sense is, Brianna Joy Gray. None of us has a crystal ball, but as I suggested a moment ago, labor has had a pretty good run the last couple of years. They've won some major victories, literally from California to the Carolinas. We all think of course, the UAW and the success they had against the three big automakers, but there are others we could run down if I had the time. But labor has had a pretty good run the last couple of years. Do you sense that's going to come to a screeching halt with Trump 2.0?
You know, it's interesting. There are different theories of the case. There's one theory of the case that says that, frankly, there's more agitation and more resistance that you see when there's a Trump presidency because so much energy is spent when there's a Democrat in office sort of covering for and rehabilitating the record of the Democrat in office. And I do think that we saw a disappointing silence on issues like immigration that were really galvanizing back in 2016 and 2020. Part of the rationale for why Joe Biden had to be elected in 2020 was because of how horrible Donald Trump was for immigrants, about how horrible the environmental crisis is and how we needed to stop it, all of these issues. And we saw the Biden campaign make a hard pivot to the right, and obviously ultimately the Kamala Harris campaign make a hard pivot to the right on that particular issue. Black Lives Matter basically had to die and peter out because it was framed back in 2020 as a zero-sum game. If you want to beat Donald Trump, then you got to stop talking about all of these criminal justice issues that were framed by so many Democrats in leadership as bad for the party's image. But in fact, back 4 years ago, when those social movements were going, where those people were feeling supported and like they had a voice in this country, that's when Joe Biden won. And I think that there does have to be some introspection about whether the cause of Joe Biden's or Kamala Harris's loss in this cycle is because people were, in fact, too woke or because the Democratic Party left a void where wokeness was maybe the only thing that was discussed in lieu of the substantive underlying issues like criminal justice reform, like immigration reform, like living wage, like healthcare, which is so central to the conversation right now in the wake of Luigi Mangioni's alleged assassination of the healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I think, in this hour, certainly in the next 3 hours. I think this audience knows this because she's kind enough to come on this program with some regularity. Brianna Joy Gray is host of the very popular Bad Faith podcast. We all recall her as Bernie's comms person during his run for the White House. Dr. Michael Fontroy is the founding director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University. Michael, I've been thinking the last few days about this. We are all history students. Brianna Joy Gray, Connie Rice, yourself, and yours truly. We're all students of history at some level. And I've been thinking about how 2024 is going to stack up in the years to come in terms of the way historians will spend time trying to, unearth what this year was. I'm thinking of 1968, and that was a major year, as you know. Historians always study that particular year. Bobby Kennedy's assassinated, MLK's assassinated. So much happens in 1968. I'm wondering if 2024 is going to be one of those years that historians will find irresistible in the years to come.
I don't think there's any question that they will. When you look at the consequential presidential campaign and all of the historical and unusual circumstances around that, with the nominee stepping out and being replaced by his vice president, there's just so many things that I think historians, political scientists, and others who follow this kind of thing will look to with great significance. It'll rank somewhere between 1968 on one hand and perhaps 1992 on the other, where Bill Clinton upset at one point popular incumbent. In some respects, based on some of the things that he did in the wake of the riots around the Rodney King non-conviction. And so, and remember all the controversy in L.A. and other places around the country around that. So I think that this is certainly going to be one of the sort of Mount Rushmore years, for lack of a better phrase, that historians and others will watch. But by the way, that's a really important point to make, in part because, as you know, this is how history sort of cements itself. So the people who tell the story now will be the ones who are read 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now.
Yep. And to your point about Mount Rushmore, and I don't want anybody to throw up when I say this, but I wonder if there will be people in the future who will suggest adding Donald Trump to Mount Rushmore, given the historic nature of what he pulled off.
Oh boy. Look. There are people that were talking about that in 2020. So,
yeah, exactly.
So I'm not going to be surprised that there are some people who talk about it, but it's also a different thing altogether to actually make it happen. And by the way, and this is something that is also very important for people to keep in mind, while I think Donald Trump is a disaster and shouldn't have been elected and should be behind bars as far as I'm concerned, the truth is, he only has a 2-year presidency going forward, because he's a lame duck as soon as he walks in, because he can't run for re-election. And then there's the 2026 elections, which could turn one or both chambers back to the Democrats. So, the Mount Rushmore, kind of symbolic stuff may take a back seat to some of the more pressing issues that some people may choose to push.
Connie, I hear Michael Fontre talking about the midterm election and the next presidential race 4 years from now, and that Trump essentially is a lame duck, only really 2 years before we start talking about the next election. But that ignores what Donald Trump said in this campaign, that if you vote for me this time, you ain't ever got to vote again. And there are a lot of folk who take him at his word. So I'm not so sure that what Michael Fontre has laid out is going to roll out the way he laid it out. I don't know what to expect from Trump this time around. Do you, Connie?
No, no one else does. I don't think Trump knows. But I absolutely agree that what we can expect is the unexpected. He will try. He will try. I don't have any doubt about that. He may try, but we're not going to know, as everybody on the panel has said. We're not going to know. We might be able to see the contours of what happened this year 10 years from now, but we're now just coming out of the fog and seeing some of the factors that were the drivers of what actually happened and what got misread and what didn't get misread. We're just now beginning to see those contours. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of room to. I think Mount Rushmore is safe for now.
Yeah. I hope so. I want to go around the horn with this question, and I'm fascinated to hear the answers that are they're about to come forth. So, Connie, what is your assessment? I don't know what the historians will say years from now, but what is your personal assessment of Joe Biden's legacy?
I think he's going to loom kind of large. When you look at what he came in with, he shouldn't have been able to pass some of the biggest legislation since FDR. Those big bills were, the CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Act, all of the big pieces of legislation that he wasn't supposed to be able to get through, he got through. And it's going to have a lasting legacy. I think that in terms of legislation, in terms of foreign policy, I think he's going to be seen as very consequential. Under his leadership, NATO expanded, stood up to the nation-state aggression of Russia against Ukraine and so forth. But I also think that he's also going to be blamed for a number of things, including staying too long and not setting up the transition a little bit better. Jury's out, Tavis. As I said, history gets written over the decades. Sure. But I don't think he's. I think he's consequential. I think that a number of things that he did are going to be pivotal for the next 50 years of our political terrain. It's too early to tell how it's going to shake out, but he made an impact.
Most one-term presidents, as we all know, Brianna Joy Gray, most one-term presidents are not seen as consequential, to borrow the word that Connie just put forth. What's your sense of what Joe Biden's legacy is going to look like?
Well, I do think it's important that Connie brought up foreign policy. I think it was and has been understated the extent to which his choice to shepherd, defend, run cover for the genocide in Gaza, which Lancet estimated over 6 months ago had a death toll of approximately 200,000 people, and has only gotten exponentially worse since then. We have Human Rights Watch recently joining Amnesty International and describing the events as genocidal with complete uniformity in that opinion among the international community and legal community. And it's really difficult to see how that reality is going to look better over time instead of worse. I saw an image yesterday of a baby in a NICU incubator that had decomposed to a skeleton with curls on its head and a hospital tag around its skeletal ankle. And that is the kind of imagery that so many people who consume alternative media are so familiar with. And Joe Biden's insistence on bear-hugging Bibi and putting no daylight between his administration and the Netanyahu administration, I think, is very damning. On top of that, I do think that he came into office at a moment of generational possibility. During the COVID pandemic, 15 million people lost their jobs. And because we have an employer-based health insurance system instead of a health care system, that means those people lost their insurance as well. And so Joe Biden was someone who ran on a public option, never talked about it again when he got into office, even though he had an enormous political opportunity to make health care reform, real health care reform, a single-payer health care system, potentially a signature policy for this country that lags behind all of its peer nations in that regard. And again, now that it's such a central conversation in the country, I think many people are going to look back with regrets what could have been if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party had embraced some of these enormously populist policies at a time when history seemed to demand that they do so.
Since you went there, let me ask you right quick, given that Joe Biden passed the baton when he did, we could assess that all day long, the when he did part. What's your sense of how that's going to be read?
Oof, I think that people are not already in a contemporary moment very frustrated. I mean, people who are big fans of Biden and Harris, the Democratic Party, are mad. People who aren't are mad. Look, there was an article out this week in, I think, the New York Times talking about how many people knew that Joe Biden was in health decline and cognitive decline and wasn't able to do the job and wasn't able to run. But this hubristic choice to stay in as long as he did in a way that really undermined Kamala Harris's chances. I have my criticism of Kamala Harris, but it's certainly the case that polling showed that she improved on Joe Biden's chances. It had him, what was the statistic that the Positive American people revealed just a few weeks ago, that he was, that no poll ever showed him winning. The internals were absolutely disastrous. They knew it was a lost cause, and they were still manufacturing consent for this historically unpopular president. I mean, it really, the Democrats in many ways have no one to blame but themselves. And given that they were talking about Donald Trump as this enormous existential threat, which I don't think is untrue, there was a real asymmetry between the threat that was posed and the seriousness with which they treated their side of the fight.
Yeah. No, I'm fascinated by the data you just cited, that none of the polls really had Joe Biden with a chance to win, but it's also true that David Plouffe and others who were in the Obama campaign, who were then in the Kamala campaign, came out publicly a number of days ago and suggested that throughout the entirety of her run, their internal polling never had her winning. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, we're getting all these national stories about Kamala this, and she's gaining here, and she's competitive, and they're neck and neck in the red states, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff we were being told. And David Plouffe and company tell us that their internal polling at no point ever had her winning this race. I digress for now. When we come forward, Michael Fontroy with his thoughts on, he teaches this stuff every day at George Mason. What's his thought about what the Biden legacy looks like, or will be regarded as, or not? You're listening to a year in review, if I can say it, on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Israel conducted airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen, killing at least 9 people. The strikes were in retaliation for Houthi attacks on Israel, which increased after the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks. A Chinese national pleaded guilty to operating a secret Chinese police station in Manhattan, New York, which was shut down by the FBI in 2022. U.S. Attorney Brian Peace says they tracked dissidents who spoke out against the Chinese government. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act won't be voted on this year as Congress nears its end. It must be reintroduced next session. Supporters say AM radio is vital for information and emergencies. And TSA reminds travelers about security rules. A man at San Antonio Airport in Texas was found with a cane, hiding a sword. Things like cookware and power tools are common but must be in checked luggage. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hello? You gotta get your story straight. What an idiot. Get it through your noodle. Don't give a rat's behind. That's baloney.
A new era begins.
And I'm just getting started.
Judy Justice.
Check your local listing to watch Judy Justice. Out now.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A very important game for the Chargers tonight at SoFi. They play the Denver Broncos in a game that will have major implications on the AFC playoff picture. Denver is 9-5. They can clinch a playoff spot if they beat or tie the Chargers tonight. Denver is currently the number 6 seed in the AFC playoffs. The 8-6 Chargers are in the 7th and final seed. They need a win tonight to avoid dropping out of playoff contention. 5:30 kickoff on Prime. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are at Sacramento. The Clippers are at Dallas. From the Now It Can Be Told department, the Dodgers paid just over $2 million to the Los Angeles Police Department and the LA Fire Department for their services during the World Series Victory Parade on November 1st. The Dodgers paid LAPD $1.7 million. $290,000 went to the fire department. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I was so excited when I heard this sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
The revolution will not be televised.
This is Brother Cornell West. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm full of joy and delight to announce that I'm joining the precious family at KBLA Talk 1580, founded and led by my dear brother Tavis Smiley himself. Yes, the name of the show is Truth Time, and I'll be working with the inimitable Nina Turner out of Cleveland, Ohio, sister of great vision, and we will be on weekday at 12 noon. We will be following Brother Tavis Smiley's show. We will begin Monday, January the 6th. That's right, Monday, January the 6th. Get ready for a different kind of insurrection. We coming with Martin Luther King Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer and Curtis Mayfield and Aretha Franklin, and gonna add a little Gil Scott Heron too, as Nina Simone sits at the center. That's right.
The revolution will be live.
That's what we gonna do. Please come with us on this fantastic voyage.
The revolution will put you in the driver's seat.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed, as we for the 3 hours of our program today, reflect on the year that was. It's a year-end roundtable with some amazing guests every hour. And this hour, we're pleased to be joined by the towering public intellectual, noted civil rights attorney Connie Rice, host of the very popular Bad Faith podcast, and formerly Bernie's comms person, Brianna Joy Gray, and the founding director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University, our friend and brother, Dr. Michael Fontroy. Michael, as you can imagine, I'm getting all kind of notations and comments and postings as we engage this conversation. I want to just read this to you right quick, and you can weave this into your response about Joe Biden's legacy. But this really picks up on the conversation that Brianna Joy Gray and I were just having. Tavis, I'm curious if the panel considers the Harris campaign's rosy forecast amid dark internal numbers a form of fraud on donors, given that they were raising millions, indeed billions, around what was essentially a myth or at least wishful thinking. If not a fraud, was it a kind of hustle given their internal polling numbers? I digress. Michael Fontroy, your thoughts on that and the Biden legacy?
So let me deal with that first. I would say no. Internal numbers are sort of helpful, and they may be more accurate than public polling, but you never really know until Election Day. And one of the reasons why I think Biden was so slow to get out was they kept holding out hope that those numbers would turn around, and they never did. And as a result, he lollygagged and messed around and essentially constricted the amount of time that Vice President Harris had to work. And, there was a lot of energy that developed throughout her campaign, and there was reason to believe, I think, that even though the internal numbers may not have ever showed her winning, I'm pretty sure those internal numbers showed her closing the gap. And that's enough to continue in it. And, oh, by the way, Tavis, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I don't know that there's a better option. Sometimes, it's really interesting. Politics, like life, is really about your options, right? Yep. And you're only as good as options you have. And her only real option was to continue to push forward and try to win.
Connie, I'm curious as to your thoughts about that question from one of the listeners about whether or not it was fraud to be begging people for billions of dollars when your numbers internally said you weren't going to win this thing.
No, it's not fraud at all. Polling doesn't work because polling is based on 50 years of past experience, and we're in a fractured, broken paradigm moment. We're shifting to completely new physics for electoral politics, and we don't even know what that new model is. We're building it as the plane takes off the tarmac. So the polling, polling's all over the map. What did break was, I think the things that broke were much bigger than anything to do with polling. Mm-hmm. I think that there was a miscalculation about how the media terrain and the social media terrain had moved, how the country had shifted to sites where the Harris campaign wasn't even talking. They didn't even hear half the messages. Low propensity, no propensity voters came out for the first time. You had Black and Hispanic men. You had You had, it was so many meta forces and drivers that changed the terrain that I don't know that any Democrat could have won, given that the things that we thought were going to be primary. And we talked about this in one of the shows, Tavis. You remember you and I talked about how democracy isn't going to, saving democracy is an upper middle class perspective. It is an absolutely valid pitch to do, and it's an absolutely valid point to make. But for people who don't enjoy democracy, they enjoy a police state on the ground, saving democracy isn't going to resonate because they don't experience democracy. And so there were too many messages, not enough messages. The terrain had changed. I actually say Trump ran the perfect campaign for his strategy and his political analysis of the landscape. His was closer to the reality. Harris ran the perfect campaign for the audiences she was going after, but she didn't go after enough of the right audiences and didn't have a working class thing. The thing that really strikes me, though, Tavis, is that, and you've talked about this on your shows many times, is that what you're really talking about is two parties that are really on their way out. They're just sort of exhausted on fumes. And what takes their place is going to be interesting. This was the working class saying, we would rather have a convicted felon than who's a sexual predator in rather than anybody we think is part of the establishment that has lied to us for at least 70 years, sent our kids to war, defunded us, sent our jobs overseas with these trade pacts. The problem is they're voting for the party that's actually done more of the reverse Robin Hood than the other. Now, the Democrats, I don't know if the Democrats can do this. They need to break completely with the past and say, look, we were part of the handmaidens to reverse Robin Hood for the last 70 years. We're going to claim our part of it. But if you really want an agenda that builds mobility from the very bottom of the well up and puts the rungs of the upper mobility ladder back on the ladder like Bernie Sanders talks about and Cornel West talks about, you're going to have a real break and put together a politics that the Democrats are terrified of embracing.
Connie raises a fascinating question, for me at least, Brianna Joy Gray, and that is whether or not you see, Brianna, gloom and doom or possibility and horizon for independence over the next few years, given where we are with the red team and the blue team.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Connie just said. I do think that the Democrats' saving democracy messages fell flat for the reasons that she described. I also think that some of the messages around Trump and his ethics fell flat because we've seen so many poor ethics on the other side of the aisle. Joe Biden just pardoned an individual that was part of this kickback scheme where they were throwing youths in jail for money, pardoned a pedophile. I'm old enough to remember at the beginning of the 2020 primary race when Joe Biden stood accused by 7 or 8 women of various kinds of sexual misconduct and assault. And his VP, Kamala Harris, who of course was running against him at the time, said, quote, "I believe them and I respect them being able to tell their story." I mean, the problem is, I think, yes, there is a lack of confidence on both sides of the aisle and a failure to lock into what working class voters actually want. Kamala Harris lost Latino voters, Black voters, youth voters, core Democratic constituencies. And I think Connie is right about the failure to actually talk to them directly. And I don't think that it was an accident. I think there was an awareness that Kamala Harris struggled with certain kinds of media appearances and chose not to go places where there was going to be, I think, a kind of a through-willing discussion where somebody might ask her substantively about the gaps between what she ran on and the person she presented herself as being, both in her Senate run and in her 2020 presidential run, and as the vice president of the United States of America, and then later in her campaign. And to the question of what Democrats could have done differently, they could have held a primary. When you have internal polling showing that Joe Biden is going to lose to Donald Trump by 400 electoral votes, that's the time to have a primary. Joe Biden, questions about his age and fitness were emerging in the 2020 primary. So the idea that they didn't have time to prepare for to set up an outcome that could have been better than this, again, when they were screaming from the rooftops that this is an existential election, that the future of a country and our democracy is on the line, that is a huge failing. And I completely agree with Connie that the two-party system is a problem, is on its way out. Both parties are deeply corrupt. They're two wings of the same corrupt bird. And I'm really interested in people talking more about alternative third parties, learning about growing, changing, developing the Green Party, PSL, whatever it has to be, something new, but this is not sustainable.
When we come forward, we'll talk about the Supreme Court. They had some banner decisions this year, perhaps none more impactful for the future than this immunity decision. We'll talk about that and a great deal more when we come forward with Connie and Brianna Joy and Michael Fontroy on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Somebody bring out the confetti, baby!
Starting Monday, January 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 has a new midday lineup.
I'm excited.
Are you ready for Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, and E. Quarterly Corte back-to-back?
Oh, my God.
Are you really ready for all this smoke?
I'm ready, brother.
Yes, we still have Dominique DePrima in the mornings and Zoe Williams in the evenings, but middays just got lit on KBLA Talk 1580.
We on fire.
All across America, people are talking about our new midday lineup. Starting Monday, January 6th, our KBLA 1580 app downloads are on fire because everybody's going to be tuning in.
Yes, I love you guys. You are the bomb.
Now would be a good time to hit up SMB at KBLA1580.com if you want folks to hear about your business or brand. That's SMB at KBLA1580.com. It's going up in 2025 on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's going up. That's what I want.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
How concerned, Michael Fontroy, are you about this Supreme Court decision this year that gives Donald Trump, I wouldn't say blanket immunity, but pretty close to it?
Yeah, well, as you know, I teach courses on the presidency, and presidential power is something that we talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when presidents are able to acquire more power, it's because Congress has abdicated it to them in some form or another around legislation or not doing investigations properly or and that kind of thing. This is one of the few times in which the U.S. Supreme Court has effectively made the president more powerful than the other allegedly co-equal branches of government. And it is particularly dangerous because, of course, he's going to be back in office. And he's going to push the envelope on this as far as he can. He can't be trusted to do the right thing. He has no real governor. He has no real guardrails that he respects. And so my fear is that he's going to make sure that he's going to go as far as he can and do as much as he can within the limits of a Supreme Court that is very much in his own pocket.
Connie, are we looking at justice for the people or justice for a particular party over the next 4 years?
Oh, there's no justice for the people. That's off the table.
Hey, Connie, I love your optimism. I love your optimism. Yeah.
No, not right now. No, this immunity decision was absurd. It was just absurd. If you could see the law school debates about this with even conservative scholars, it's clear that it's almost if it's within the scope of his executive powers, he can basically order anything. Like you remember, I came on, Tavis, and I said, "Good thing I'm not president, because with this order, there'd be a Reaper drone on the way to Mar-a-Lago right now."
I recall that.
He's a clear and present danger to national security. Take him out. I couldn't be prosecuted under this decision. So no, I think the Supreme Court is carving out a whole new Supreme Court jurisprudential direction. And I like I said earlier, as I said, I underestimated. I was unaware that we had a MAGA sleeper cell on the United States Supreme Court. But when you read these opinions that are just without any kind of building block explanation for why 50 years of precedent now all of a sudden has to disappear because they decided that they've got a block of votes to do what they told Congress they weren't going to do, which was reverse super precedents that have guided jurisprudential decisions at the district court, appellate level, and Supreme Court level for 50 years, and all of a sudden it switches completely. And that's a bad direction for the court. The faith in the court is going downhill. Yeah. This is a time when institutions that uphold the democratic order and the constitutional order are under severe attack. And we thought we had the courts as a guardrail, and this term paints a big red question mark over that assumption.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Connie and Brianna Joy and Michael, I want to raise the issue that I think Brianna tapped on earlier, and that is this case we're watching of Luigi Mangione for the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare, and whether or not that story, not whether or not, but how it's going to unfold, and ultimately whether it means anything for the reformation of this particular industry. We'll talk about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been hearing me guest host here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm having a blast. But I'm excited about joining the official lineup here at KBLA Talk 1580 starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. Start your day with First Things First and Dominique DePrima at 6 a.m. Check out Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Tune into Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon, and then tap in with me on The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. weekdays. I served 17 years in the U.S. Congress, and I can tell you it's going to be a rough 4 years, so let's navigate this journey together. It's The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
I've got just 4 minutes left in this hour, but this year of 2024 was so big, we're taking all 3 hours today to unpack it. In the 4 minutes I have left, Brianna Joy Gray, this story of Luigi Mangione and the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare is a story clearly that has legs, one of the biggest stories of the year. Will it have an impact on the industry going forward?
Well, I want to make clear that this response to this is very much bipartisan. There have been efforts for people on both sides of the aisle to say, oh, this is just weird lefties who are out of touch with the public, who are excited about this and celebrating a man's murder and isn't this despicable. But the reality is the New York Times had to shut down their comments on their big story about this case because people were expressing their, if not sympathy, obviously, for an assassination, a sympathy for deep-seated frustration with the American healthcare system. The insurance system is a better way to describe it.
Yep.
And over on the right, Ben Shapiro had to, again, contend with the fact that he was overwhelmingly shouted down by his audience when he tried to come after the story in a negative way. Do I think it's going to have an impact? Well, we're seeing people circle the wagons in a bad way. We're seeing articles being written about how CEOs are upping their security protocol.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to continue to wall themselves up and try to defend the status quo. And you're going to see probably more kinds of untraditional protests or pushback like this assassination, as long as there are no political or alternative means for people to change the system. And again, when you have two parties, neither of whom is interested in even any kind of single payer system or even a public option, you're going to get this kind of violence.
Yep. I've got 2 minutes left here to Brianna Joy Gray's point, Michael. I'm not sure this is the answer. That is to say, we don't want to behave in the way that Mr. Mangione behaved. But what does, to your mind, the resistance look like for the next 4 years, Michael?
Generally on healthcare.
Generally speaking.
Yeah. Generally, I think the resistance is going to require some really strong and healthy civic education.
Yeah.
Because I think there are too many people in this country, regardless of ideology, who have misshapen expectations and understandings about what government can and can't do,
right,
and how quickly government can move. And so for me, it begins with that.
30 seconds, Connie. What's the resistance look like to you?
Oh, maybe on the ground level with regular folks, there might be a little bit of resistance, but I don't see the system changing. The interests are too entrenched and they're too big and there's too much money. Until there's a movement for a single payer system, we're going to continue to see not health care, but insurance care.
Yep. Final question to you, Brianna Joy Gray. Broadly speaking, politically, what does the resistance look like for you over the next 4 years?
I think Connie's absolutely right about the focus needing to be on the money that is driving our systems. I think there was a movement for health care. There is an interest. 88% of Democrats and a majority of 49% of Republicans and majority of Americans overall support a single-payer health care system. There was a popular candidate that brought that to the fore in Bernie Sanders in 2 cycles. And the Democratic Party spent more time, energy, effort, and money defeating that than they ultimately did in defeating the Republican Party, and now we're living with the consequences of that priority.
It's a big year. We're taking all 3 hours to unpack the year behind us, almost behind us, and the future to come. We'll talk in our second hour more expressly about what the future looks like for black folk, given what we have endured this year, given what's teed up for 2025. For this hour, I thank Connie Rice. I thank Brianna Joy Gray. I thank Michael Fontroy. I wish you all very happy holidays. Thank you for being on this program throughout the year. I love each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. Good to
have you here. Hour 2 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Israel conducted airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen, killing at least 9 people. The strikes were in retaliation for Houthi attacks on Israel, which increased after the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attacks. A Chinese national as they tracked dissidents who spoke out against the Chinese government. The AM